What's up, TRP kids? First, I just want to address this. It's my hair. It looks silly, and it's just gonna be here the whole time. Okay? Hope you're okay with that. Got a little bit of whatever. I usually take a few days off from answering your questions, but we just did a video yesterday and I wanted to get to this one real quick because I thought it was such a great question. This one comes from Micah Goat, and Micah is asking, how does the Bible record stories of things that happened when no one else was around to see them? So like in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, these stories that tell about Jesus and his life. If the story says that Jesus goes off by himself to pray and then it records what Jesus prayed, how would they know that? Right? Jesus was alone, so how would they know what words to write down that he prayed? It'd be like you walking into your bathroom and making up a poem and then coming out and thinking that anyone would know what you said or would be able to write it down in a book of your life later on. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, this happens a few times throughout in the Bible, and the question that Micah was asking specifically was not about Jesus, but it was about creation in Genesis chapter 1. So in that story, remember, there's 6 days and God is creating things, and on the 6th day, he creates humans. And if no one was around on days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, how would anybody know what happened and how could they write down this story? It's a great question. I love it so much. And I want us to think about the Bible here for a second, because a lot of times we think about all of the stories that are in the Bible as a straightforward report of history. It's like the bullet points of all the things that happened just as they happened. It would be like if you are outside and you're doing something really cool, and you know you're doing something really cool, and then your mom whips out her cell phone and she starts taking a video of you skateboarding or shooting baskets in the backyard or running around with your brother or sister. When that happens, you have a record of what you've done, and you can just hit play and watch it just as it happened. And we kind of think that that's how the authors of the Bible dealt with these stories. They look back at their phone videos and they just record what's on there and they write it down. But that's probably not the best way to think about the Bible. Instead of thinking about the Bible as a video, maybe we should think about the Bible as a piece of art. And we might not want to think about the Bible as a piece of art like those old oil paintings of portraits and people sitting there with regal poses, like something like that, which is meant to be just as it is. We shouldn't think about the Bible as that, but maybe we should think about at least some parts of the Bible as an impressionist painting. These paintings that have lots of globs of paint and shapes, and it's like if you squint your eyes, you're like, oh, I think that's a lily pad, or I think that's a little lake or something. And it's like it moves you. It's meant to make this image, and I think sometimes that's what the Bible does. Now, Micah, listen to me and listen to me good. The Bible records history, and the Bible records things that happened, but the Bible doesn't always tell them like they're recording what's on a video camera. Okay? God created the world, but how God created the world might not be the main aim of Genesis chapter 1. Okay? Now I want you to stick with me here, because the way that the Bible tells the story of creation in Genesis 1, it opens up a lot of doors for us to ask questions. And I'm going to point out just 2 of them for us here. Now remember, it says, in the beginning when God creates the heavens and the earth, it goes on to say that the earth was formless and void. Okay? So a lot of times when we think about creation, we think about God saying, let there be, and he snaps his fingers and then something shows up. That's not the picture in Genesis 1. A lot of times God is taking all of the things that are already there and separating them, shaping them, moving them, putting them in their proper place. So in day 1, he says, let there be light, and there was light. This is kind of one of those sorts of things, but then it goes on to say, so he separates the light from the darkness, and the light he calls day, and the darkness he calls night, and there was morning and evening the first day. So there's something that's there, and he's separating and he's moving. And then check this out. In day 2, it says that God makes a Rekia in the Hebrew. It's a dome, and it's a dome that is meant to separate, it says, the waters from below and the waters from above. So we have this dome, and you can think of it sort of like a snow globe, and we're on the inside, and there's this piece of glass around us, this structure, this hard structure, that's keeping water out of where we are. So God is separating the waters from above and the waters from below, because in the ancient world, remember yesterday when it rained for a bit? The ancients may have thought, or at least talked about rain as the floodgates of heaven are opening up. The Rekia is opening up. The dome has a hole in it, and the waters that are above are emptying out into the earth. Isn't that awesome? Now, that's not a video camera of how things are happening. That's a piece of art that's meant to move and shape. So God is doing all these cool things. Also get to day 5. God is creating sea creatures. It says that God creates sea monsters. We might think like sharks and whales and eels and barracuda. That's for my older than 40s there. We might think about those sorts of animals, but in the ancient world, they would have thought about these mythical sea monsters. Me and the boys are reading The Dawn Treader, one of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I know you guys have started that too. And in one of the scenes of The Dawn Treader, there's this sea monster that just wraps around the boat, and it's sort of like that. Now we know that if you go out of Ocean City, or you're just kind of in the Atlantic Ocean hanging out, that the sea monster's not going to show up. But in the ancient world, they thought about these things, and the reason why they thought about these things, this is why it's so cool. In Genesis 1, one of the big points that they're trying to get across is, yes, God created. Yes, God made us in his image. Yes, these are all important things, but also God is taking all of the scary things in the world, and he is saying, I'm in charge of you. So in the ancient world, again, they would have thought like the sea and the deep, that these were powerful and scary entities. But in the very second verse, I believe, of chapter 1, it says the Spirit of God is hovering over the face of the waters. And for people that were reading this way back when, they would have said, whoa, that is awesome. God is in charge, and God is making sure that everything is in its proper place. And then they get to day 5 and they say, whoa, God made the sea monsters, and he has put them in their proper place, and they will not breach the surface and hurt the Dawn Treader, because God's in control of these things. Now we know that this isn't a video camera. This is a painting. And for the people at this time, they were creating stories that made sense for them in their moment in time to talk about how God is. God is powerful, and God is the creator, and God is in control of all things, and God is taming chaos and making sure everything's in its proper place. It is so awesome. So the question isn't necessarily, how did they write about these things when they weren't there? I think the question is, how should we think about these stories from ancient people who are telling us really interesting truths about God? God is the creator. God's in control. God has created me in his image. And those are all really important things. Especially now when you're sitting at home and you might be thinking the world is in chaos. What Genesis 1 is telling us is God's got it under control. What an awesome question, Micah. I hope that doesn't open up a whole scad more questions for you. But maybe if we don't think about the Bible as a video recording and think about the Bible as a piece of art, then we will begin to wrestle with what's in it in a bit more of a beneficial way. So awesome, thank you. Next up, Shep Rogers. You've asked probably the most difficult question that I've ever received about any sort of Bible thing. I honestly don't think it can be answered, but we are going to try. So, Hang in there, guys. I will see you soon, and thanks for sending in questions. Bye.